Hello, I am Sarah Glaz, Emeritus Professor of Mathematics at the University of Connecticut and poet. I am going to talk about the mathematics in the poetry of Sefer Yetzirah. Let me share with you a PDF file of it. Okay. It is based on the paper that will appear in the Proceeding of Bridges 2021. Sefer Yetzirah, which you see the cover here on the left-hand side, the Book of Creation in Theory of Practice by Aryeh Kaplan, contains a translation from the Hebrew, along with extensive commentary of the oldest and most mysterious Kabbalistic text, Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Creation. The Book of Creation is so old that its origins are no longer accessible, but it was attributed from early time to the patriarch Abraham that lived around 2200 BCE. Legend tells how Abraham, born in Mesopotamia and having lived for a period of time in Egypt, was initiated in all the astrological mystery of his age. His teachings, transmitted down the generation in oral form and in great secrecy, were collected in writing at much later unknown dates, in forms altered by the passage of time. Some believe it may have been put in writing as notes for his students by Rabbi Akiva that lived in the 1st century CE. The result is Sefer Yetzirah, a meditative and poetic text with strong magical overtones, which deals with letter permutation, various signs and incantations connected with letters, numbers, and heavenly bodies. From my point of view, the point of view of someone interested in the connection between poetry and the history of mathematics, Sefer Yetzirah offers a unique take on the story of creation of the world, where numbers and letters intertwine to form the basis of all existence. The modern reader can also enjoy the book's poetic expression, philosophical message, aura of mystery surrounding it, and the amazingly abstract and skillful number manipulation reminiscent of the work of Pythagoras. I will start by reading my poem, I Witnessed the Creation, which was inspired by reading Kaplan's book. Then, both as a background to the poem and as a topic of interest in its own right, I'll briefly discuss the mathematical ideas present in the poetry of Sefer Yetzirah. If time allows, I will also say a few words about the content of the concluding section of the paper, which extends the background beyond Sefer Yetzirah to highlight the place held by the mathematics of the ancient Hebrews among the mathematical developments that occurred in the region around the same time. And here is my poem, I Witnessed the Creation. It responds to and offers interpretation for 5 poetic passages from Sefer Yetzirah that focus on ancient connection between mathematics and poetry. Connection which are echoed in the modern mathematical thought. Words in italics are taken from Kaplan translation of Sefer Yetzirah. I Witnessed the Creation. When the word was uttered into being, it was also reckoned into being. Yah, the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, the living God, King of the universe, created the world with quality and quantity. 5 dimensions spinning widely for 6 days, and on the 7th, Sabbath. Out of the cloud of my not yet becoming, I saw the 22 stones arranged in a circle of fire. The circle oscillated back and forth. An ideal figure, fully round, before the orbit of this imperfect planet wobbled and our world solidified. Lines were gates to a vision of heaven. 231 gates connected the stones on the circle, a giant spider web pulsing in space pinned to stone eyes. And my eye in the center, marking the time of waiting for a visible future, where there is nothing in good higher than the light, and there is nothing evil lower than plague. I saw a host of flashing light traverse the vastness, plurality born of the singular light of the infinite. For the master is singular, he has no second, and before one, what do you count? Enumeration, the ineffable given forms through my body, 10 sephirot of nothingness in the numbers of 10 fingers, 5 opposite 5, finger opposite finger. The concept of one-to-one correspondence with the future will unravel the secrets of transfinite cardinals. 22 stones, the foundation letters, 10 digits, the numerals 1 to 10. Together they comprise the 32 mystical paths of wisdom I saw engraved into the bedrock of existence and creation, which we are meant to discover and illuminate, with 3 books, with text, Sefer, with number, Sefer, and with communication, Sipur. My mind search, my heart filled with yearning, write, calculate, and speak. Share your story. Not one of us can live without others. Down to earth, I learned to compute permutation, to gain peace of mind as a patient to stay in one place and construct. Any given number of stones, n, can be permuted in n factorial ways. How many houses can we build from n stones? 2 stones build 2 houses, 3 stones build 6 houses, 4 stones build 24 houses, n stone build n factorial houses. To build houses that will hold the names of all the stars in the observable universe, we need 22 stones. 22 factorial equal a number which the mouth cannot speak and the ear cannot hear, but we must. Background, mathematics in the poetry of Sefer Yetzirah. I will now discuss the mathematical aspect of the poetic passages from Sefer Yetzirah that contributed lines to my poem. Stanza 1 and 4 of my poem, which outlines the basic elements that went into the creation of the world, aside from the starting poem of Sefer Yetzirah. With 32 mystical paths of wisdom, engraved Yah, the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, the living God, King of the universe, El Shaddai, merciful and gracious, high and exalted, dwelling in eternity, whose name is holy, he is lofty and holy, and he created his universe with 3 books, with text, Sefer, with number, Sefer, with communication, Sipur. According to Kaplan, the 32 mystical paths of wisdom refer to the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet and the 10 numbers, numerals 1 to 10. The letters and the number are the most basic ingredients of creation, quality and quantity. The quality of any given thing can be described by words formed out of the letters, while all the associated quantities can be expressed by numbers. The 3 books refer to God's divine emanation that form the basis of creation, text, number, and communication, representing respectively quality, quantity, and speaking. The 3 books may be viewed as corresponding to the 3 divisions of creation: space, universe, world; time, year, cycle, circle; and spirit, soul. Space has 3 dimensions but represents one unity, the text, graphical representation. The 4th dimension is time, represented by numerical calculation. The 5th dimension is the spiritual dimension, representing relationships and meaning. All creation falls within the spectrum of continuum of these 5 dimensions. I offer a complementary interpretation. one can consider the three books as corresponding to the three divine abilities that were imbued into the world at the time of creation in latent form. Text corresponds to writing, number to mathematics, and communication to verbal expression or language. Human beings were created with the innate capacity to discover and develop the three potentialities. Stanza 2 of my poem, which speaks about the creation of letters, cites from a poem from the second chapter of Sefer Yetzirah. 22 foundation letters, he placed them in a circle like a wall with 231 gates. The circle oscillates back and forth. A sign for this is there is nothing in good higher than the light. There is nothing evil lower than plague. According to Kaplan, the foundation letters are the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. In Sefer Yetzirah, the letters of the Hebrew alphabet are frequently called stones. The Kabbalists say that they are stones quarried from the great name of God. If a number n of points are placed on a circle, the number of connecting lines between the points can be calculated by the formula n times n minus 1 over 2. Arrange the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet as points on a circle like in the figure above. The number of gates, meaning connecting line, is 22 times 21 over 2 equal to 131. It is unlikely that this formula was known to the ancient Hebrew. The calculation was most likely carried out one number at a time, a practice designed to induce a meditative stance. The mystical significance of this particular mathematical calculation and the meaning of the mysterious last two lines are unclear. Also, the last line, nothing evil lower than plague, resonates with our feelings today during the current pandemic. Mathematically speaking, the ancient computation in this passage are the seeds that will go into several modern areas of mathematics. The formula mentioned above is nowadays an elementary part of algebra, combinatorics, number theory, and other areas. While the image of the 231 line segments connecting the 22 points on the circle is that a complete graph on 22 vertices, anticipating graph theory and bringing to mind the relatively modern use of graphs to create string art. Stanza 3 of my poem speaks about the creation of numbers. It cites from two poems from the first chapter of Sefer Yetzirah. 1-3, 10 sefirot of nothingness in the number of 10 fingers, 5 opposite 5, with a singular covenant precisely in the middle, in the circumcision of the tongue and in the circumcision of the membrum. 1-7, 10 sefirot of nothingness, their end is embedded in their beginning, and their beginning in their end, like a flame in a burning coal. For the master is singular, he has no second, and before one, what do you count? The 10 mystical paths of wisdom, consisting of the 10 numbers 1 to 10, are also manifested in the 10 sefirot, which according to the Kabbalists are the most basic concept of existence. The Hebrew word sephirah, singular of sefirot, means counting or enumeration. It is distinct from the word for number. Numbers could not be defined until there existed a concept of plurality in creation. The Creator himself is singular, the absolute unity, the indivisible infinite, and so on. Plurality came into existence at creation in the form of the 10 sefirot. The 10 sefirot are of nothingness, meaning purely ideal concept without any substance. Unlike letters which have form and sound, the sefirot have no physical properties. In Kabbalah, the 10 sefirot have names that are not mentioned in Sefer Yetzirah, but are well known from other classical Kabbalistic texts. A full discussion about the meaning of the 10 sefirot is beyond the scope of this paper. I offer a mathematical interpretation. The 10 sefirot may be considered to be the abstract idea of enumeration, embodying the concept of one-to-one correspondence. Kaplan notes that a possible arrangement of the 10 sefirot is on the finger of two hands. The hands are presented with the finger 5 opposite 5, so they are positioned to show the one-to-one correspondence between the two sets of 5 fingers. Before counting numbers acquired names, that is, before the humans acquired the ability to count, the most likely way to assess quantity had been through one-to-one correspondence. For example, if a large cattle area had a number of individual cattle pens, and when the herd entered the area, each cow occupied exactly one pen and no pen remained empty, we say that the pens and the cow are in one-to-one correspondence. And so clearly, without actually counting either, the numbers are equal. This early way of assessing quantity acknowledges plurality before counting. The notion of one-to-one correspondence was dramatically revived by Georg Cantor, who lived about 100 years ago, when he used it as a technique to compare the sizes of various infinite sets. In particular, it was used to prove that the infinite cardinality of all the real numbers is larger than the infinite number of the counting numbers 1, 2, 3, and so on. With this, the concept of one-to-one correspondence became a tool in set theory, which was instrumental in the development of an accurate mathematical treatment of transfinite cardinals. It is not clear what was the notation for numbers and how were the numerical calculation appearing in Sefer Yetzirah carried out. The book is believed to have been in existence long before the invention of the Hindu-Arabic numerals, along with the base 10 place value number system, both of which are invented in India circa 600 CE. There are speculations that numbers were denoted by tally lines or small circles, small stones, and the 10 sefirot were represented in the form of a tetractys, a symmetric triangular arrangement of tally lines, as you see here in the left, 4 at the bottom, 3 on top, 2 on top, and 1 at the very top. Together, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 equal 10 has 10 sefirot. In general, numbers and letters were intertwined in numerous ways. At some point in antiquity, the Hebrews assigned numerical value to the letters of the alphabet. The numbers 1 to 10 corresponded to the first 10 letters, the numbers 10, 20, up to 100 corresponded to the next 10, and so on. Although not a place value number system, the number 10 acted as sort of a base. The shared symbolism between numbers and letters led to an interweaving of meaning between numerical values and words, which result on one hand in esoteric mystical practices, and on the other hand, it provided the impetus for performing marvelously skillful number manipulation, heralding modern mathematics. The last stanza of my poem, which intertwines numbers and letters, cites from the 4th chapter of Sefer Yetzirah, 4:16. 2 stones build 2 houses, 3 stones build 6 houses, 4 stones build 24 houses, 5 stones build 120 houses, 6 stones build 620 houses, 7 stones build 5,000 and 40,000. From here on, go out and calculate that which the mouth cannot speak and the ear cannot hear. This line discusses the number of permutations possible with a given number of stones, that is, letters of the Hebrew alphabet. For 2 stones, this number is 2. For 3 stones, this number is 2 times 3 equals 6. For 4 stones, this number is 2 times 3 times 4 equals 24. In general, for n stones, this number called n factorial is n factorial equal 2 times 3 times 4 up to n. Thus, 5 factorial is 120, 6 factorial, 620, 7 factorial, 50, 40. Continuing the computation needs larger and larger numbers. For 8 stones, we get 40,320. This number in itself is not impossible to pronounce. According to Kaplan, what is beyond human ability to mouse or hear is the articulation of every letter in all the 40,320 permutation of 8 letters. A total of 320 times 8 equals 322,560 letters, chanted like a mantra to induce older states of consciousness. Subsequent chapters of Sefer Yetzirah speak of 12 elemental letters. 12 letters can be permuted in about 500 million ways, which would take 63 years to pronounce. There are about 6,000,000, 10 to the power 21, possible permutation of all the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, which according to some sources is close to the total numbers of stars in the observable universe. Thus, among all the permutation of letters of the Hebrew alphabet, one can find house the names of all the stars in the observable universe. Permutation of letters for mystical and meditative purposes were transformed over thousands of years into the mathematical area of group theory. And naming all the stars in the observable universe is still a favorite practice of astronomers and poets alike. There is no time for me to talk about placing the mathematics in Sefer Yetzirah in the context of the other mathematical activity in the region, which you can see in this map. More details about each of the points that I talk about and the conclusion itself can be found in my paper. Thank you very much for, thank you. Thank you very much for listening to me.